Welcome to We're the North Bank podcast, where each week we sit down and chat about all things happening in the Arsenal world. Unfortunately, I'm guessing that this week's chat is going to be a tricky one. I'm your host today, it's Martin. I'm joined by Stefan. Hi, Stefan.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing really good.
I'm trying to muster up some enthusiasm.
Yeah, could be tricky.
Might be
Look,
tricky.
what the way we kick off each week is your kind of hot take, your gut reaction, gut response to, well, to what happened at the London Stadium earlier on today.
The gut reaction is we had it and we threw it away. It was so frustrating to start the way we did, to be so dominant. They couldn't live with us when we moved the ball quickly and, you know, played with that intensity. So to then coast, and I've seen lots of people and heard lots of people saying that we were playing like we were 4-0 up or 5-0 up when we were only 2-0 up. And it really does sum it up a little bit. You know, we were probably playing as though we were a lot more comfortable than we needed to be. And then it just felt like we were just doing our best to... I mean, it really was poor. It's the first time I've walked away from a ground this season. Granted, I have dodged a couple of other annoying bullets that we've taken on throughout the season, but it's the first time where I've come away and thought, no, that was really quite bad for long spells of that game, which is disappointing, but also, you know, highlights just how well we've done. And hopefully, you know, this is the norm, the sort of resting heart rate, as it were, is actually, you know, much higher than that. And, you know, no one will be feeling that more than the players, you hope, at the moment, and they'll look to put things right next time, we hope.
Yeah, well, we said that after the Liverpool game, and this kind of mirrored that. So you'd like to think, and I know there's, I read somewhere, I can't remember who said this, but people getting so caught up with the magic of Anfield detracted from the reality that we lost a comfortable 2-goal lead away at a team who were struggling for confidence within the game itself, struggling for confidence.
Yeah.
And there were lessons there to be learned, but because of the aura of Anfield, maybe those lessons weren't taken on board, because I could not believe what I was watching today. It was a carbon copy of last week. Ergo, 0 lessons were learned. And I put that on the players and on the management. I mean, I'll get on to that. I've written down my hot take, one word: deflated.
Oh, massively.
That's how... I must admit, you know what I'm like watching games at home when I've got the choice of not watching at home and pressing pause and getting William Hill on and just keeping up the score. I actually watched every minute of that game. I was actually quite confident beforehand, and I saw exactly what I'd hoped to see in the first 20 minutes. And that was it. Listen, this team has exceeded all of my and our expectations from the start of the season. And so this is not about digging out individual players at all. And we're on a 9-game unbeaten run in the league, 7 wins and 2 draws away from home, the 2 draws as well, away at West Ham and away at Liverpool. Do you know what? Many's a league title has won that involves a draw away at West Ham and a draw away at Liverpool. They're not in isolation terrible results. And I will still say the Liverpool point was a point gained. within the context of what actually happened in the game in the second half and in the injury time in the second half at the end of the game. But I think it's because of the relentless nature of the machine that is Manchester City as well. I think. Yeah. Okay. Let me put this question. Go on. Go.
I was just going to say, that they have essentially rewritten what it takes for a title challenge now, because in other years, the talk of a team getting 90 points or potentially 90 points, scoring the goals that we have, having the clean sheets that we have, having the away record we have, wins you a title every time. But the nature of the game has changed because of their relentlessness, because of the machine, because of the backing, because of the personnel and the assembly that they've managed to put together, or what they've managed to assemble. It's just it's almost unattainable. It's crazy.
Isn't it absolutely ridiculous that we're sat here espousing these defeated negative views when we are sitting pretty at the top of the table, 4 points clear of our nearest rivals who have a game in hand with 7 games to go. Yeah. Now, name me a club who wouldn't swap places with us.
Yep.
There isn't one.
I know.
So what the hell is wrong with us?
Hope. It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? And it's it's the context. Everyone knew that everything had to go our way, and it hasn't.
Okay.
And the worrying thing is actually, like you've alluded to with the manner of the 2 defeats, is that actually it's not gone our way because it's kind of our doing.
Because of us, yes.
Because of our complacency, and not complacency in a, we crapped the bed and, ran around terrified. It's actually because we became almost cocky and, we got the lead and we knocked it about and we tried to draw the team onto us. And what that ended up doing was putting ourselves under undue pressure. And we didn't play quick enough or just sharp enough or intense enough. And the moment you give any team in the Premier League, and I mean any team in the Premier League, it's not just Liverpool, who are obviously a very good Premier League team that are sort of underperforming, but even a team like West Ham, they just needed something to inject them with a little bit of energy, a little bit of intensity, a little bit of belief, and they were away. And all of a sudden, we couldn't win a header. We couldn't, challenge a 50-50. Nothing went our way because we
couldn't get back to that.
We couldn't get back to it. Yeah. When you set a pace and then drop down, it's hard to get that pace back again.
Yeah. So we didn't panic. It's not that we've panicked. It's that in another way, our naivety or inexperience has played against us. Although I will say, when talking about luck, that the Saliba absence is quite critical because, and I'm not blaming Holding for any specific lapse in concentration or mistake. I mean, he did concede a penalty at Anfield, but they didn't score from it. But not having Saliba, we've gone 2-0 up away from home in the first half hour of consecutive games. Our defence up until recently would have probably, you'd have backed us to see those 2 games out from those positions. Today we missed Zinchenko as well. Now, actually, maybe defensively, Tierney's a stronger left back against Jared Bowen.
He played quite well.
But he did play quite well. But you wonder how not having 2 of the back 4 and missing Tomiyasu as well, he would have been first choice replacement for Saliba. You wonder how that impacts then Gabriel as well.
Yeah.
And he's been imperious. He's been fantastic, and he was good again. I think that was a very soft penalty. He conceded. A bloke was diving before contact was made. It was silly to go in like he did, but again, I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming Thomas Partey for that because of his just appalling loss of control or complacency, or I don't know what it was.
He had Pretty
he had a
nice
really
game.
poor 20 minutes. But so I think defensively, I think our defensive injuries have cost us potentially as well. Yeah, just it's kind of slightly mitigating circumstance, perhaps.
And
But
sure, and Zinchenko also gives us a little bit more control in midfield to support Partey as well. And what I noticed about Holding, replacing Saliba today, not that Saliba's the quickest, but there was a moment where obviously Holding's caught out wide with, I assume it was Antonio, but I can't remember exactly. And he's made that challenge as he's just got to the edge of the box. It was really quite early on.
It was again, very close to being a penalty.
Very close to being penalty. But him and White were out there, but it was White that dropped back into the central position and Holding was outside. Well, actually, it shouldn't have been that way round. Holding's a good defender as a central defender, knocking things away that he can face up. When he's turned, when someone gets past him, his shortcomings are there to see. And something else I noticed today as well is that balls in the air, his arms are all over the opponent, and it's just inviting trouble on two fronts. One, you could easily give away a foul and concede a set piece, or if you don't manage to hold the player up, actually they can turn and get away from you really easily, and it's a very clumsy sort of way of doing it. And Saliba's a bit more, he anticipates maybe a little bit more, I think, and reads that situation differently. And like you say, just adds that little level of composure. And I love Holding, and he's absolutely great. But on the bare face of it, he is probably fourth choice centre back.
Yeah, and
so it tells, doesn't it?
And unfortunately, he was in the team when we capitulated last season. The Spurs and Newcastle away games. Well, the Spurs away game, he was obviously suspended for the Newcastle one because of what happened in the Spurs game.
But also looking beyond the actual games themselves, again, it shows the difference between us and City. City can litter their benches with absolute superstars who rotate in and out depending on all the cup competitions that they're in, because they can fight on four fronts and it not really affect them. When you're replacing high quality with high quality.
Okay.
It's all the money game, isn't it?
So, okay, hang on. I think that's enough doom and gloom, right? Because City have just played the two easiest games they'll have between now and the end of the season, Southampton and Leicester. The Leicester game, they started their strong team and the game was 3-0 and they made their substitutions. And the XG in that game was pretty much even overall over the 90 minutes because City's replacements or second string, a couple of the players interviewed in the post-match round of interviews actually referenced, we made a lot of substitutions. Leicester scored, hit the inside of the post, had a very good penalty appeal turned away, and Maddison and Alisson saved really well for, not Alisson, Edison saved really well from Maddison in the last 15, 20 minutes. It could, and City were nervous. I watched the last 20 minutes of that game because I got interested. City were poor. And a bit more of a clinical approach from, like, one of those, Iheanacho snatched at a couple of chances as well because he saw the headlines when Maddison, he could have had Maddison clear through. If that game had gone 3-2 with 7 or 8 minutes to go, so actually, and Leicester, a home game against Leicester's got to be one of the easy. I say this ahead of a home game against Southampton on Friday, and I'll say it loud. If we don't, if you don't win that game comfortably, then we've no business being disappointed that we're not going to win the league. It's a fair cop, Gov. If we can't beat Southampton at home comfortably, it's top v bottom. I don't care. Southampton went to Chelsea and got a result. Chelsea are a basket case at the moment. So City have just had their we've had 2 games away at Liverpool and West Ham, and there will be. So you sent me a message earlier, and I think it was Orbinho tweeted, the last 7 seasons, City's points tally from their final 8 games. Only once, on one occasion, did they get all 24 points. They've got as low as 14 and 15 points before from their final 8 games. Don't think that City can't drop points. They've just had the two. It's just the way the fixture list has arrived at the moment. They've just had their 2 easiest games playing the bottom 2 consecutively. At the same time, we've had away to Liverpool and away to West Ham. Now, we should have won the West Ham today's game, and I'm not saying we shouldn't. We should have, and we had the 3 points, so we absolutely shot ourselves both barrels in both feet multiple times, and I'm annoyed about that. But it is what it is. But I'm not. It's not curtains. It's not game over, and I really hope that the players aren't. Let them feel sorry for themselves and lick their wounds tonight. Fine. But we're going to do 3 things, a series of 3 things in a minute. And one of the 3 things I'm looking for ahead will reference that. I think I said after the Liverpool game, that point at Anfield, I'll decide whether it was a good point based on how we play against West Ham. Yeah, it didn't quite work out for me, but I'm doing something similar now. Although this point will always be a bad point.
Decide how good these points are based on how we play against Southampton.
No, but we have to go to City with the 7-point lead.
Oh yeah,
and we can beat City. What? How can a club's fan base have such little faith in their own team, who are sitting top of the table with 7 games to go? We can go there and win. Okay, we can go there and get tanked as well, but we can go there and win. I really do hope that Saliba plays against Southampton and then plays against City, and that Zinchenko was purely precautionary. Because if of all the games you want Zinchenko to play that role, City away is one of those games, because it will really force Pep to hopefully do something stupid again, overthink it, and play Haaland at right back or something. So you cannot, because I don't know, anyone not watching this, when I said we can go to City and win, Stefan's face told a different story.
My slightly raised eyebrow is just because it's the football fans' kind of psychology and irrationality. Of course our fan base have faith in this team. They've done things this season that we didn't think they could do, and that is the point. We hope they can do it. We know that they can, but we perhaps don't believe until it actually happens.
Yeah, but why not is my question. Why not? We've gone to Spurs and beat Spurs. We've gone to Liverpool and not lost.
Why not?
That's all we need to do against City. We need to go to City and not lose.
No. Why not is simply because, again, most football fans looking at it, it's based on history. It's based on form, isn't it? And the form tells us that we don't win away at City. The form tells us that they are going to get most, if not all, or nearly all of the points that are available to them in the games that are left, including ours. The form tells us that the draws that we've had, and I know the context of the opponents is a factor, but like you said, despondency, deflated. There was a bubble that was burst ever so slightly today from what happened, and it's whether that can be shaken off, with the game against Southampton, or whether a spanner can be thrown in the works by a really tough game for City away at Bayern in the Champions League, and then an FA Cup semi-final against Sheffield United, who have a free hit. They're going to fill up their end at Wembley. They're going down there to make a really good account of themselves. So City have got 2 big important games before they then face us. But it's just there, isn't it? You feel like, what is it? You're as good as your last game. you're as good as your last game. And unfortunately, today's last game really was not great.
It depends on which part of it you look at.
Well, again, you're as good as the ending of your last game. There you go.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So what 3 things were you looking out for? You actually were at the game today. I was watching it from the discomfort of my own home. What 3 things were you looking out for?
Right. So my 3 takeaways. First one is very simply, don't take your foot off the gas and piss about. It's not
Sound
hard.
advice. Yeah.
It's not hard. Again, at 2-0, I'm going to come to my second point in a moment, but at 2-0, it was just almost too comfortable. And it felt like, this idea of job done, there was just something in the air that felt a little bit too comfortable. But also there was this restlessness. Don't take your foot off the gas. The amount of times I heard the phrase goal difference at that point, and you're just thinking, yeah, come on, let's go. Push 2, 3, 4. Let's really go for it now. And it just didn't quite happen. The passes got a little bit slower. The touches got just increased a little bit more. And you just invited West Ham onto you that little bit extra, that little bit of time. And it was an annoying thing. So I'm going to go straight on to my second point as well, because the second point is the away end were as comfortable as the players were at 2 up. And that led to just despondency at the end, which all felt very 2021-22. It had that feel of that run of games towards the end of last season. But essentially, we go 2 up, everyone's going, yes, we needed a fast start. They played on Thursday, they're struggling in relegation, a fast start, 2 goals ahead, brilliant. Right, okay, let's, see where it goes. But actually, the away end kind of settled as well. Yeah, the West Ham fans were silent, but the Arsenal away end settled. There was no kind of like urgency from us either. It was like, 2-0, easy, we'll sit back. And we were all sort of culpable of it, not helped by the fact that the West Ham Stadium is just one of the worst places to try and generate any kind of atmosphere, because we were on the front row of the upper tier, and there's just a chasm between us and the lower tier. So you would hear something go up from the lower tier towards the front, and then by the time it's echoed past us, it's all sort of dying out, and it's just a dreadful place to really have a kind of explosive sort of atmosphere for football. But we were too comfortable. The players were too comfortable. The fans were too comfortable. We didn't do enough to kind of, jeer on and spur on the players enough. And the players should have taken that responsibility as well. Arteta said as much in his post-match that we listened to on the radio on the way home. He said, look, you've got to kill games.
Yeah, he said we were arrogant. Yeah,
we were arrogant. We had to show no mercy. City, like you said in the Leicester game yesterday, they had the benefit of 1 extra goal and playing Leicester, who were on a rotten run of form as well.
And at home.
Yeah, massive difference. So there were some sort of differences with that. But like you say, Man City still also took their foot off the gas a little bit. It's just that they had that extra buffer and the home advantage and all those sorts of things as well. We didn't have that. It's an away game in the Premier League. You keep that intensity up for as long as you can stomach it. Because if we play like that throughout the whole half, and push and get that third goal, well, a third goal would probably be a stretch too far. You would like to think.
Yeah, well, as Wenger says, 2-0 is a dangerous scoreline because you don't know whether to stick or twist. But you go for it, especially in a season up against Man City when goal difference could well come into it.
Like you say, goal difference, and also, we're missing 2 of our main back 4. Don't stick there. Don't invite pressure onto players who aren't quite at that speed, at that level, and at that comfort zone that you're looking for. Twist all day long. You've got Odegaard, you've got Saka, you've got Martinelli, Jesus. They're all in form. Use them to their advantage.
West Ham have good players.
West Ham, all they needed, this is the thing, West Ham were poor for the first sort of 10 minutes, but actually it was as much about us being good in those first sort of 10 minutes. Once they got a little bit of momentum, they came to life. Souček was bossing the midfield. Bowen had one of his better games that I've seen, for a long time. Soufal was up and down that touchline. They were chasing everything, but they were winning everything because they worked harder, because they could up their intensity from where they were, and we couldn't get it back.
Right. That's interesting you said that, because one of my not takeaways but queries last week after the Liverpool game, I asked you whether you thought having a week between matches would I actually think it could be a counterproductive, because you lose that momentum from game to game because you've got too long to prepare for it. Now, that kind of gets kicked out of the water because our starts have been really fast. Maybe you could argue that would be that's the case if we were really slow starting and it took us ages we were like a goal down or 2-0 down in the first 30, 40 minutes, and it took us a while to get into the game. But actually, we've been against Liverpool and West Ham, no fault with the first 30 minutes, or a bit less for West Ham, I think. But what's your third takeaway then?
Third takeaway, final thing, is really just about the strange substitutions. I feel like they were a little bit late. I feel like we could have changed something sooner. However, I feel like, of all the players, you don't take Odegaard off. That the thing that stood out from the end. See, there was a very big difference between last week and this week in that we really were holding on. It was defending. It was Aaron Ramsdale saves that really kept us in the game. That's why it felt like a point gained. The reason this feels so much like 2 points lost is because we had the territory towards the end, and we did nothing.
They sat back. They just put 2 banks of 5. They were keeping their draw.
Nothing with it. The passes were aimless, hopeful, but the movement was slow, really slow. Jorginho was making some successful passes, but they weren't progressive in particular. And it just felt like we weren't finding them. They also were very narrow, and we didn't really have any width. That idea of Saka on one touchline and Martinelli on the other, that seemed to just disappear. And there were just a few balls that went over the top. I remember one from Vieira. They were just not very good. Whereas Odegaard, yes, I'm not sure he had his best game. Started brilliantly, as they all did in that first sort of period, and then kind of faded a bit. A few passes went awry. But Odegaard's the one that can see and do things, from nowhere. You could argue the same about Jesus as well. And Martinelli, I thought, was having a good game. Don't take him off. Yes, I felt like Trossard needed to come on, and perhaps Eddie sooner, because 3 minutes before the end, I think it was, before he comes up. He's not going to do anything with that, is he? That's what he was complaining about before. He needs more time on the pitch to make something happen. So I think Jorginho gave us a little bit more of a holding in the game, and that allowed us to have that territory. But we didn't create anything, really. Fabianski wasn't really troubled. There was no chance that I look at and think, what if that had gone in? In fact, the Martinelli pass last week against Liverpool, that felt like more of an opportunity, and they were very few and far between against Liverpool. So it all felt just a little bit. That's why I feel like this is the first game, in a long time, and that is a huge privilege to have because we've done so well this season. And it does feel bad, criticising too much, but it just felt like a really, really naff day at the office by the end of it. As good as that start was, it was undone by the rest really, because it was so lethargic and cocky, and I don't know, just.
Well, and that's why I said at the start that the management as well as the players are culpable here, because, and the reason I mentioned the management is not necessarily a half-time team talk, but I did comment on Arteta's substitutions at Anfield last week. And I was kind of loath to, because he's done so well. And I did say, he's learning as well and so on. But yeah, his substitutions were odd today. I don't think you take Jesus off unless he hasn't got set 90 minutes in, unless he's carrying a knock, you do not take him off. You just don't. Partly, I understand why, because I think if you were to single out one player, you talk about people banging on ridiculously about the Xhaka moment last week against Anfield against Trent Alexander. Well, and I don't agree with that at all. The Liverpool goal was what changed the atmosphere there.
Yeah.
But today, I do believe that Partey's, I don't know what's the word, sloppiness in midfield
Yeah.
cost us, because it was him trying to flick it over Rice. Like, really?
It's the flicks. It
It's
was
like,
too
well, Arteta actually said that we were
like
trying to
training.
do flicks. So I think Arteta is really
Annoyed. Yeah.
angry with Partey, and I think that's so. I don't mind him coming off. Why you're bringing Vieira on, I just do not know. What is Smith Rowe got to do to get some minutes now?
Must be about proving fitness.
Well, has Vieira really proven or earned or demonstrated enough in his minutes, whereas Smith Rowe has second top goal scorer last season?
He's got credit in the bank.
Yeah, you know, and you're talking about how defensively West Ham set up and how we needed that progression. Well, Smith Rowe is one of the few players we've got who will actually commit players and take players on, and he'll do something different. So I do believe that there were issues with the substitutions.
Yep.
Because I do look at the bench and think, oh, that's a strong bench. Well, okay, we need to use it better and think about who we're hooking, from the players on the pitch. So I did write down a little comment about Arteta and substitutions again. Now, that's consecutive games. That's not a good look. A one-off, perhaps. But, again, let's see how it plays out. Are you done with your 3 takeaways? That
was my 3. Yeah, don't take your foot off the gas. Away end was just as comfortable as the players and strange subs. Yeah.
So it's all your fault, basically.
Well, we didn't help ourselves. It was the first time as well that there was clear frustration, and it of course it's because it's getting to the business end of the season, and everyone's very tense. But also it was there were patches of real sort of negativity, born out of frustration. I don't think there was any particular
disappointment.
And disappointment. There's no malice to it in particular. Not that around us anyway. But really dejected.
Okay, so my 3 takeaways:
Go on in.
Sloppy, arrogant, or just inexperienced, naive. That or a mixture, a little bit from column A, B, and C. That was I've written a load of question marks after that. I can't make my mind up. We didn't. It's not. And this is probably a better way of looking at it for our own mental health as a support group. It doesn't look like the pressure's getting to the players, because if it was getting to the players, maybe we'd be all over the place to begin with, and the performances would be completely insipid. But we've gone in both these games in which we've dropped points. We've gone 2-0 up away from home, playing
and then not
supreme.
Completely capitulated and lost. If I'm clutching at the thinnest of straws.
Well, no, definitely a positive for Anfield. Game, but so because if the pressure was getting to us, then that's a problem, because that pressure's not going away. If we stick 4 or 5 past Southampton on Friday, then maybe lessons have been learned, and we will. That's what I'm expecting on Friday. I'll say that I'm expecting a complete hammering of Southampton. Anything less than that, and it's been a great season, but we're finishing second, maybe third. But that's where you're going to get your sign, and then you go to the Etihad. You beat Southampton 5-0. Right. As a fan base, you're going to the Etihad thinking, yeah, come on, we can do this. As a player, you certainly are. We know Man City have a problem with us. Listen, everyone was eulogising all week about Man City, the demolition of Bayern Munich, winning 3-1, whatever. We're still above them.
What I find incredible is, as well, media and pundits are trying to have it both ways.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, well, Man City are going to win the title. Of course they are. They're the best team in the world. You know, they've got Haaland, the freak up front, and they've got the best manager, you know, the robot, the ball fraud, in charge of them. And yet Arsenal are bottling it as well. Well, it's like, well, hang on a minute. Are Man City the best team in the world, or are Arsenal bottling it? Because
and we're still ahead.
I'm not sure they both correlate. Or,
absolutely. So that was my first takeaway. If it is sloppy, a bit of arrogance, a bit of inexperience, then we've got time to correct that. It's not terminal yet. Second takeaway was Saka needs to find some form now if we're to have any hope at all. He's been such a brilliant player, having such a brilliant season, and I can't remember what kind of game he had at Anfield. I do remember the game before that he didn't start. He was rested and he came, and I'm wondering, is he carrying a knock that we're not being made aware of? He was very very quiet today, to the extent that I messaged you at half time and I said Saka's form is a little bit worrying for me. And when that penalty was awarded, when I saw Jesus with the ball, holding the ball, I was really quite pleased.
Jesus took the last one and scored.
Yes, and he's scored 4 goals in his 3 games back from injury. He should have taken that penalty. I was saying that at the time. If I could have fired off the message quick enough, I'd have sent it.
A few people did around us.
And then when Saka took it, when Saka took the ball, I thought, he's not been playing well. He can't be feeling at one with the ball, if you know what I mean. Like kind of. So
you might be able to tell me this, but I'm pretty sure of and he's done really well with the penalties with us in previously as Saka. But when I think of Saka scoring a penalty, especially for Arsenal, I think of sort of low, well hit and towards the post.
Yeah.
And he's tried to go top bins.
Yeah, he's gone the other side. He's gone like high and wide. Yeah, I didn't.
He's overthought it and just second.
I think because he's confident. He's not at the top of his game at the moment.
Instincts, such a shame because
he
looked
that was
devastated. I mean, at the end of the game, he was basically trying to make a swift exit because he was so distraught, and there were various players off the bench looking to sort of comfort him and geeing up, and I did feel for him.
It was compounded by the fact that within 2.5 minutes.
Oh, I know. It's just sod's law, isn't it?
So that was my second takeaway. My third takeaway is we can't always rely on dramatic last-minute winners. It's like.
No, I know. Yeah, when Nelson kept getting the ball on the edge of the box towards the thing, and I'm thinking it doesn't happen again.
No.
It's too perfect. And also it shouldn't bloody come to this.
Well, exactly. That was my takeaway. Okay. So looking ahead, then we've got Southampton on Friday. I've already revealed my take on what I'm looking for. What 3 things now, based on what we've just witnessed today? What 3 things are you looking forward to?
Okay.
For the Southampton game.
Number 1, don't take your foot off the gas and piss about.
Okay.
Exactly the same as the takeaway from today. You've just got to, that's the lesson to learn. Intensity from the go. If you can get ahead, great. And if you do, don't piss about. Whereas, if you don't get ahead straight away, well, then you've got to keep your foot on the gas. You've just got to keep going and keep plugging away, because when we play with that intensity, most teams can't live with us. So just got to try and
establish. So why when I said I expect us to win 5-0, did you hang your head?
Oh, that's more just because I feel like you've jinxed it now. That's pure superstition.
You do know that I have. Yeah, you do know that I have 0 power over the Arsenal team.
That's not how made-up superstitions work.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's completely irrational. I don't know if you know this. I know that. I know it has no bearing on it. But there's something in my
listen, I still cross the road in exactly the same place on the way to the Arsenal games that I've done so for 30 odd years.
Oh, you won't like this then. So here's a little anecdote from today. We meet up with a load of people, a couple of pubs around the Liverpool Street area. A friend of a friend is there who's a West Ham fan. Okay. And he says, we're all sort of saying, oh, we're probably going to go about this time, that, and the other. And he goes, well, come with me, because what I do is I go this way and that way, and then you actually end up just outside the away ground. And we were all looking at each other going, all right then. Now, it was brilliant, because we got the overground from Liverpool Street to, where was it? Stratford. And then it's DLR round to Pudding Mill Lane. And then literally just a walk like up an underpass, and then you're there at the away end. Absolutely brilliant. No crowds, it's absolutely fine. But it was a change of routine. It
So
wasn't
again,
a normal long winding walk in bloody Westfield.
I'm hearing it's your fault.
It's my fault. It's my fault. Yeah, I know. I'm taking full.
Go on. What else are you looking forward to?
Okay, so my next point is about Southampton. In recent games, hear me out, they've played okay. Huge brackets there. What little I've seen, obviously, but they're failing to take any kind of chances. They held out City for a long time, and then they conceded late. They were playing, I think, Palace yesterday, had some pretty good chances, didn't take them. Palace punished them. So therefore, don't hand it to them. Don't give them anything to sort of give them any kind of intensity, like we did today and last week.
And at their ground earlier in the season.
Silly, needless tackles, panic at the back. If a player's going to go past you, you might just have to let him go. You might need to play the percentages. Play with your head, not with your heart. Because when we're cold, when we're ruthless, we're good. So don't give them any kind of sniff. Because for them, it's a free hit. They're at the bottom of the table. They're going to have to pull off some massive results in order to get themselves anywhere, even thinking about safety. So they've got nothing to lose. So don't give them anything to just, give them half a sort of, an eye that they might get something out of the game. We've got to be cold and ruthless. No sort of softer, chances in the game.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the second one. Third one is no silly fouls within Ward-Prowse range, please, because we all know what he can do. So just don't be daft.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Ward-Prowse, isn't it?
Well, my three things are actually only two. It was similar to yours. Start fast against Southampton and stay on top.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
I heard someone describe, I can't remember who it was, but I heard someone describe the Brighton performance at Chelsea yesterday as relentless from the first minute to the last minute. That they were, there was no sitting back and defending a 2-1 lead. They were pressing and high tempo, high energy, exactly as they were in the second minute, in the 90th minute. So that's what we need every game. I mean, it's not rocket science.
No.
But you keep doing what's got you to where you are. Mind you, one of the things that's got us to where we are a series of last minute winners. So, we're still learning. My second thing I'm looking forward to, or looking towards the Southampton game, is the crowd. You walked away despondent. You messaged me at the word despondent. I get that. Deflated, disappointed, frustrated. And I think as an Arsenal, as a fan base, that's pretty much how we all are feeling this evening, which is fine. But we need to get rid of that as a fan base. You've held your hands up saying that the away end was a bit complacent also during the game today. But even if you had been louder, it might not have been recognised or heard by the players because of that stadium's dynamic.
But at home,
but it has to be absolutely rocking on Friday. There is no.
What's your memories of Friday night games at the Emirates?
I have no memory of a Friday night game.
I'm not sure I do really, and I'm sure we started a season against Leicester that finished 4-3.
Yeah, we were 3-2 down with about 5-10 minutes to go, and Giroud scored 2 goals.
But then that's coloured by the fact that we did, come back late on and do okay, and And then there's a.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's the context of where the game is falling. We've just dropped points in consecutive games from winning positions. We're still in pole position.
Yeah.
We win our games. It doesn't matter what City do.
I'm hopeful the atmosphere will be great.
Well, it's a Friday evening. It's a Friday night.
Yeah, but
end of the working week.
But there'll be lots of people like you who won't be able to go as normal as they would be at the weekend.
Yeah.
So that can work one of two ways. Either it will be a more nervy atmosphere because there will be people who don't usually go and they know, what's just happened in recent games and where the context is. Or it might be people who rarely get to go who suddenly come with a little bit of fire and sort of G it up. But I just can't help feeling like today's game will impact. I think there will be nerves.
It can't. It's simply.
I know it shouldn't, and I don't want it to. And I'm going to race from bloody Norfolk after work, drive down there, at the speed limit. It must be said,
or under,
in order to get there, so I can be there. Because there's no way I'm not doing it. Normally, the reason I don't do midweek games is because it's the day after. It's the late get back, and then having to pick myself up for work. But it's Saturday. I won't care how late it is. So I'm going to be there. But, it's going to be...
Look, that's it. I'm looking for the players, but I'm also looking for the crowd.
Yeah,
the crowds at home very much have a role to play. And there is, if not now, then when? There should not be any nerves from the crowd. It should be, it's home to Southampton, for crying out loud. If it was home to Man City or home to Liverpool or home to Man United or Spurs, then I get because there's ways that we can lose that game, but that everybody can see.
There's also historical experience of when it's not a big inverted commas opposition team, then actually the atmosphere can dip. When Palace rock up, when Leeds rock up, people are a bit like, well, we should beat them at home. Maybe it could work in your favor. Maybe these recent results, everyone will be switched on and go, right, come on, let's do it.
Well, it is our easiest remaining game.
Well, you have to say that they're
home against the bottom team. You don't. That's like, it is what it is. So, like I said, I'm looking for players up for it, crowd up for it. 5-6. I'm up in it again. 5-6-0. We can see if we can see the goal, fine, whatever. But as long as we're absolutely hammering that, I want the goal difference on a par.
Yeah.
So when we go to City and beat them 2-0, our goal difference is positive in our to our benefit.
Right. We might have to draw this conversation to a conclusion because it's getting silly now.
I've had no alcohol. I've had a cup of tea.
It's school night.
Right. Yeah. So what we did last week, we had these any random observations or comments or anything like that, and all I've written down there is we're going to beat City to go 10 points ahead of them. There you go.
Really? Well, yeah. I have written down some bullet points, but it's actually better if I do them really quickly. So the first one is Spurs, LOL, Chelsea, LOL, Man City. What's the opposite of LOL? I had to think about this.
WTF.
So laugh out loud. Right. But because City blew Leicester away in the first half, I've got CIQ, cry in quietly. Okay. There's just something about their relentlessness that's, it makes you cry inside going, come on, just show us that you've got a chink in your armor. And maybe that second half is that little glimmer, that other teams will go, well, hang on a minute, they can take their foot off the gas as well. But look, beating Bournemouth at home 3-2 with an injury time winner is not for everyone. And Spurs, obviously, for all their celebration, it was weird. I was listening on the radio. When Spurs equalised, I turned it off. I was like, whatever. Even them getting a point was annoying, let alone them going on. And Richarlison, he is just turned into he's the new Dele Alli. He's the new Dele Alli. That's 3 goals he celebrated that were all offside. And then he missed a gilt-edged header only for Bournemouth to go up the other end. And well done, Bournemouth, by the way. That was no fluke. Bournemouth played well. They put them under the cosh. They pressed and they played intelligently and they committed people forward. You know, if they stay up, they're going to do it well on merit because they were great. And that finish, you know, to check back inside and just bosh it in. Oh my God, amazing scenes.
Yes, absolutely. And the bottom three all lost today, or this weekend. So there's a bit of daylight for teams like Bournemouth.
I think, yeah, Bournemouth, Wolves were another one. They managed to get a win, and obviously Palace have got their sort of recent form.
Yeah, Everton lost. Who's third bottom? Forest lost today, and then Leicester and Southampton are in the bottom three. So Everton have been a bit fortunate because their home defeat. Who beat them? Fulham. Their home defeat to Fulham could have been far more damaging than it actually is. So, but yeah, don't worry about. I know it's not officially St. Todd's Day.
Ah, you had to mention it, didn't you?
But they can't get more points than this now.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think it's 7 games to go, and we're 21 points ahead of them. I think that's it.
Oh, right, okay. So it would only be goal difference.
It would only be goal difference, which is if we lost all our 7 games and they won all their 7 games, they may well narrow that, but it's a huge goal difference gap at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's not St. Todd's Day, but it will be on Friday. See, that's it as well. Like
Friday.
When the 6th goal goes in, we can be rest assured that St. Totteringham's Day has arrived.
And Champions League football.
And no, Brighton, I think, can get...
No, because with the point today and Brighton having played a game less now, isn't that right? A win against Southampton does both things. Spurs and top 4.
Well, there you go. Top 4. Look at it. Why are we such a miserable bunch? Securing top 4 with 6 games to go.
Yeah, I know, but it's all about how you finish. Look, start of the season, we're biting your hand off for the position we're in, but now we're in this position.
But now we're 4 points clear with 7 games to go. City have a game in hand.
I know. Look,
do you know what? I started with this question. I'll end with the same question. Name me the team that would swap places with us now.
Well, none.
No, there isn't one. City would take the points. Yeah. So there we go. So on that note, we shall say good night.
Yep.
And have a great week.
Back to work.
Back to work, yes, sure. But pass the time until Friday, and you can
race off after work.
Yeah, let all your angst
frustration
from the week out at the referee, no doubt.
God damn.
Anyway, right.
Yep.
It's not over.
It's been emotional.
The ticker says 7 cup finals to go, and it's still the case. We win those 7 cup finals, we are the league winners. So there you go. Right. Okay. Have a good one. Take care.
You too, mate. See you later.
Good night.
Bye.